Hello guys! Today we are changing brake pads on my Alfa 156. It may seem a very simple topic, a very simple job, but there are one or two or three or more things that I want you to have in mind when changing your brake pads, your rotors, all of those stuff dedicated to brakes. I am working here with ceramic. This is a very good brake pad. I'm not being sponsored by this brand to do this video, by the way. This brake pad is very good. I did this mounting of brake pads on my Alfa 156 sport wagon. I did the video up here. I'm very happy with these brake pads because no low dust, low noise, long life, and this is totally true. I'm very happy with these brake pads. With very simple tools, let's change our brake pads. First step to change to lift your car with a jack is where do you jack your Alfa 156, 155 and some other models as well. Well, down here you have like a ball of metal in the frame right there, and you want to lift your car on that place. Then with your trusty thing let down your car, okay, on that frame, and now we are ready to get on with it. Guys, here it is, the brake caliper. It is a manufacturer brake caliper. Ideally, when you are changing your brakes on the axle that has the steering, you want to turn your steering to the side that you want to work on. Now, that is not advisable to do that when your engine is off, because if you rotate this assembly with the engine off, you may have oil coming out of the cover of the fluid. But if you really have to, you can do that, but turn it really slowly. That wheel is on the ground. Okay. Really slowly, okay? Next thing to do is to shrink this piston here on the brake caliper, and you have to do that in order to change the pads. Okay, let me show you how I do this. With a very big spanner, like this, I put the tip between the caliper and the disc or the pad, wherever it may grab on. Sometimes it's not easy. It is too worn out. Okay, it grabs onto it. Now, you have to let the caliper retract slowly. You don't want to rush this. I'm seeing here some, I have to change that boot. 20 years, guys. This car has 20 years. Always on my hand, my parents' hands and mine. Okay, try to retrieve it as much as possible. If you cannot, I will do that. I cannot retrieve it as much as possible. Well, I could, but I will show you a way to retrieve it in the next step. In the next step. Step you want to do is to take out this spring. To do that, you can use the same spanner. Is this a spanner? No. This wrench? No. I don't know, this thing. And take it out like this. Now, if you want to, I advise you to use a tray. When the parts fall, they can land on a tray there, and then you don't have to search everywhere for your parts. So the spring is off. Next thing is to take out the covers for the bolts. These covers came out, look at this. This hose is totally, it has 20 years, guys. It's time. Okay, one cover, another. And now, Allen key of 7 millimeters. Wrench it out. If you cannot not do with this key, you can extend it with a regular 13 millimeter to break it loose. Be careful, this is not the best method of doing so. On top as well. I did it with my hand like this. Now it's loose. Just want to screw it off. These bolts are also guides. These guides here, I don't advise you to lubricate them because they run on rubber bushings, and the rubber bushing does not like grease, especially oil-based grease. I'm always talking about this, aren't I? Now you want to take out just enough these guides. You don't have to take it off. If they do come off, okay. The brake pads, I will talk about them. I am seeing some problems related to this hose. Okay, this hose will be exchanged in a few days, so I don't give a fuck if the hose it's bad or not hanging like this right now. Okay, 20 years, this hoses. Let me grab you my other brake pads to you to see what I'm talking about. Guys, the intention of this video is not just a tutorial. I imagine there are a lot of gazillion tutorials to how to change your brake pads. I want to do something more. This is the right brake pad. This is the left one, and both of the left ones are almost the same, and both of the right ones are like this. When do you think I should change my brake pads? When they are like this or like this? Look at the color. This is wet, but look at the color of the brake pads. This is very important because when you have the material, the abrasion material, that is the same height or lower than the back plate, you should change your brake pads immediately. That's why on the factory or OEM brake pads, the warning wire is so almost in the middle of the brake pad. If you can imagine like this, you see, it goes where I'm saying. When it is the same height of the backing plate, the wire tells you change your brakes. Why is this so important? If you use your brake pads always to the skin, to the backing plate, you will introduce much more heat on the rotor, on the disc, than if you use a brake pad just like this. If you use it always like this, you will introduce a lot of heat and maybe even torsion to the rotor and vibration on your steering wheel, on your brake pedal. And because you want to save a penny or two, you are actually damaging your rotor, and also the vibration will pass through the bearing, through the ball joints up here and down there, through your steering rack and steering column, and you are damaging a lot more than just saving a penny or two, or $1 or $2, or €1 or $2 by changing your brake pads earlier. Change your brake pads when they are like this. Okay, you will save a lot of money on the long run. Why does in the left side the brake pads worn out so much, and both the same, and on the right one not as much, just ideal? Because of this brake hose, guys. This brake hose is 20 years. It is beginning to be clogged up. The interior of the hose is acting like a valve, a check valve. The brake caliper is always grabbing on this disc. Also, this disc is a little bit worn out in relation to the right one, but I will still use it. By the way, if you have more than the millimeter from the top, the lip here, and the surface of friction, you have to change your brake rotor. I don't believe in taking out the corners of the new brake pad. If you have to do that, you don't do it. You just take out your rotors and put new ones in. Okay. So if you want me to be more specific about some subject that I'm talking about here, please let me know. I will do some more specific topics or quick tips or videos. Now here, imagine you cannot shrink all the way your piston. This piston is all greasy because of the boot. What do? Well, you put your new brake pad on, the interior one. There are a lot of ways of doing this. Besides, you could use a big grip like this, or even a tool. I have the tool, but imagine you don't have anything. You just have one screwdriver. That's the word, a screwdriver. God. Not a wrench, not a spanner, a screwdriver. And then you do not put the new one here on this side. Just do it like this, and now with your screwdriver you can do it all the way. Look, all the way. Can you see there the brake fluid? I will show you how to clean that. It's much easier than you think, and you don't have to buy any product. Now, the new pad on the outside. It's in place. Now, the guides, you just want to push them with your fingers and make sure they are close on the holes. It is very easy to cross-thread these guides, so be careful. Always do this by hand, if possible. Sorry. Another one. And then it's enough. Okay. Now this warning wire, I like to leave them like this, stretch all the way, and now in here it has the excess in this side. When the brake pad is worn out, it will pull up this wire. Okay, I don't like to leave them like this. In the smaller rims, it can scrape. In other videos, I will exchange this hose and tell you how to do that. It's not difficult. Okay, now next step. Plug up these two holes. And now we have to mount this spring. So in some cars it's very difficult to mount them. In this one it is very much simpler. With this tool here you can do it, but I can also do it by hand. What you want to do is to insert this bottom part first, or top, it's the same. For me it's easier like this, and then point this one up here, and then with your pliers or your hand may be sword, mine is. And now ta-da! It's done, guys. That's simple. Well, almost. Now, as you can imagine, the brake pads are not squishing on the brake rotor. Not enough anyway. What we have to do is take your brake pedal and press it down a couple times so the brake pads squish the brake rotor. When you are squishing the brake rotor, the brake pedal, yes, both. Imagine one thing. Your car, this car, has 20 years with the same master cylinder. And this master cylinder only works in around 10% of its total course. 10-20%. If now I press down all the way my brake pedal, I will damage the master cylinder. Because of the rest of the 80% of the brake cylinder, the walls of the cylinder may be contaminated, may be corroded, and my sealants will not hold up. So what you want to do is to do short pressing of the pedal. Only use that 10-20% that you use regularly on a daily basis. Great. Now, my foot is ugly, I know. Now, what do you want to do? We will assemble the wheel. I want to talk to you about that as well. Now, to seat the braking pad to this rotor, or a new rotor, it's almost the same. The rotor is not flat. It has waves, not big waves, of course. This one, of course, but some waves. And the brake pad, it's flat. When you are braking in the first kilometers or miles, you are only applying braking force on some parts of the disc. And if you press too much on your brake pedal, you will heat up a lot on certain parts your disc. And in this way, you will bend your rotor, your brake disc, your brake rotor. So be careful with that. Now I will put my wheel on, and I just want to show you one more thing, and also we'll talk about the brake fluid in a moment. Remember this tool here on the previous video that I did? This tool comes with your car, if it is complete. It's so you can point your wheel when you are mounting your wheel, your rim. I also bought this nice dyno key. I use it on my Alpha 75 project video already. I will tighten this to 120 Newton meters or 87 pound-feet of torque on each individual bolt. What is the main issue with not doing this? If you don't do this, if you don't have the notion of tightening of your wheel, besides the damaging of the bolts itself, of course, if you are tightening one more than the other, when you are braking, like I said, the disc is squished between the hub and the rim, and if you are not tightening enough or too much any other bolt, you run the risk of damaging your brake rotor, because the rotor will escape the place of least pressure. If it is if it's not enough pressure on this point, for example, the brake rotor will want to but be damaged in that way. So be very careful when tightening your wheels. Another thing, I could use my impact gun to do this. I'm not doing that by purpose, because I can screw down almost all the way with my impact gun, and then check it out with my dyno wrench. Okay, but imagine this: if my impact gun screws down to around 200 or 150 Newton meters, I can reach here, do this, and I don't know if it is 120, 150, 200, 300, I don't know. But if I'm not sure, I can always take out a little bit and check it again. You have to see some degree of tightening of the bolt. Okay, it is nice. Sorry for my lack of language, words. It is very difficult to do the job, and English is obviously not my first language. So the brake fluid came out of the reservoir. What can you do to solve this? Buy some spray brake cleaner, some miracle product to clean this. Beware, this is a very, very corrosive oil, the .4 or .3 or whatever it may be, .4. So you have to have in mind not to leave that oil there, because it is corroding everything, paint, tissues, everything. And here it is, guys, the end of one more video. I hope you like this content. I hope you can understand what I'm trying to explain and saying. If you have more ideas or suggestions, please tell me on the comments below. It's very important to me to you to consider subscribe. A lot of things, all of the things that I'm using here, materials, I'm not being sponsored by anyone, so it's very difficult to keep going on this space. Please share with your friends, hit the like button, and see you next time. Bye!